I'm by the lake today. I'm in my spot that is in rural New York State, kind of in Amish country. And what's interesting is that I was thinking about the alien stories that I was talking about and trying to sort through other alien stories and remembering one. It's just a UFO sighting that I had with my cousin probably 5 years ago here. We were sitting on the hill looking at the stars at night and started tracking together, noticing a light that was moving through the sky, not in a linear fashion. It was kind of cruising all around and going different ways and behaving in atypical fashion for any other kind of aircraft. And then as we kind of identified it together, started talking about it, I was saying, I can't believe it's so bright, is what I was saying. And as I said that, like immediately after I said that, it diminished in brightness and then just disappeared. And I was like, we were both pretty weirded out by that because it was uncanny, like it hurt us. Like it heard me commenting on how bright it was. So I just need to verify I'm comfortable for a second because there's a lot more people around, not too close to me, but then I usually have to deal with if I'm channeling. So this is definitely going to be a very quick reading just because I don't like, I like to be in my solitude for doing these. I'm going to be listening on my drive back to the city. I'm going to be listening to a 3-hour-long podcast about artificial intelligence. It's Dr. Huberman with Lex Friedman, who is I believe like a Russian scientist who went to MIT. And it's a really long podcast, but my dad, who I talked to for a while about artificial intelligence last night, we were talking about the stuff that I have been discussing. I actually showed him and my grandparents all of the glitchy pictures from the Temu app that I talked about a few weeks ago because I wanted to know what they would think about it. And my dad was kind of contesting me or challenging me like he always does, because he kind of has like he represents a very different viewpoint from me, in that he's like, we have a lot of really good things that we can do scientifically. So the podcast, I guess, is about how, because we were discussing a tragedy as well that occurred, a death, and so basically the idea is that the AI over time can be trained in empathy and help people feel less lonely and be something of a support system for humans. And I'm always skeptical about that, but I always think I'm an optimist, but I realize how skeptical I am when I have conversations with somebody who thinks that science is, headed in a really positive direction, instead of somebody who's a little bit more inclined to believe that, things get intercepted and purchased and bought out and used for the wrong reasons, instead of staying in the hands of the brilliant minds that invent certain things and being patented to help cure certain ailments and make things available to all. So I'm going to pull some quick cards here. I think I had another alien. So I was here when I saw that UFO with her, but I also was here when I woke up with that oblong hollow bruise with the red slit in it. And that was when I was in college, and because I went to college in Pittsburgh, and my family's summer home is so close to Pittsburgh, I had left some stuff here, like some dorm storage over the summer to take back to the city when I was moving into my new place or whatever. And so I had to come through here off season. It's a little summering community of people, but in the other months, fall, winter, early spring, there's nobody here. I mean, some people live here year round, but anyway, it was one of these ghostly off-season times, and my family home is certainly completely vacant. So I was alone, and that night I was getting a especially triggered feeling around my safety that I described in my video from the other day, where it's just a sensation. There's a bug on my hat. By the way, this is my grandfather's hat, the grandfather that I tend to talk about. I talk about one grandfather who taught me how to swing a golf club. That's my mom's dad. And then my other grandfather, who tells me to show up and do the work, is my dad's dad. So this is his hat. And okay, so I was here by myself, and I was starting to get this like high level anxiety of feeling this energy, or the way that I feel when I feel like I'm being watched. And I remember calling my mom, and she was just kind of trying to talk me into believing that I was okay, and that the threat was just perceived, you know, but it wasn't real. It was just something that I was getting into because I felt, you know, alone, and there's no one really around, it's still night. And I ended up putting on music and dancing because I was trying to keep myself company and not have the house feel so empty. I wanted it to feel, a leaf just hit me. I wanted to feel distracted, but I had a missing time experience that night where I don't remember going to bed. I don't remember dreaming. I woke up and I hadn't set an alarm. I woke up at 6 o'clock on the dot, and my arms were like goalposts, and I was face down in this bed, and the bed was soaked with water or a liquid. And like, I know where your mind is going right now. You're gonna say, well, were you drinking the night before? Did you like black out? No. And did you pee yourself in the bed? No. And especially because it was not localized, this wetness of the bed was not localized to, you know, my region where that would kind of happen. It was like the whole thing. So the other thing that I would expect someone to be like is like, were you drooling? No, nobody, not even one of those Newfoundland dogs could drool this amount of drool. So that was that strange thing that happened. And I woke up without setting the alarm at 6 a.m. on the dot, which is when I had to get up and go back to Pittsburgh to be on time for whatever I was doing that day. And I felt, I took a photo of my arm because it felt like a dead arm. It felt like I had gotten punched or something. I still have a little line where the red line was. So I know where it was, but anyway, that was the other part of that story. And then I guess another time I could also talk about stargates around the earth, which plays into clock tower. Ley lines and energy meridians on the globe, when certain ones, you know, cross or meet up, or if you're thinking about Earth's chakras, just like the human body has chakras, Earth's body has chakras. And Hawaii is known as being a stargate for this reason, because there's a convergence of ley lines there. And maybe I'm not describing that properly, but I was in Hawaii in 2014 or 15 with my dad, and we had gone to the island of Kauai to hike the Napali, different from Nepal. Sometimes I reference Nepal, but that's like Nepali. This is the Napali coastline trail on the island of Kauai in Hawaii, and it's a 12-mile hike, and you camp along the way, and it's really unique, rough terrain. You can look up pictures of the Napali coast. The shoreline goes in and out and in and out, so the hike, it mimics that. You'll be like right out on this crazy ridge looking out over the ocean and like cliffs, and then you'll be deep in the forest for 30 minutes, and then you'll be back out on the ridge. It was just insane. Not to mention, like, the trail was so treacherous that my like boots were like sliding, like on an angle, like just absolutely from ankle to kneecap covered in like mud, and like it wasn't an easy grade of terrain at any point. Not to mention we got like downpoured on. Meanwhile, when my dad was like, do you want to go to Hawaii, I was like imagining myself on a beach in a bikini, and I got a day of that towards the end of the trip at a resort as like my reward. We did get to do that for one day, and my dad was like missing the forest, and I was like, finally. And we took a surf lesson, and I fell in love with the instructor, but that's a story for another time. So another thing I'll just mention about this this interesting hike in Kauai is that people say there's like, not tribal, but local native people who live in this forested part of the island, and you can take things like baking soda or all-purpose flour and like trade it for like herbal medicine and things that they use, and like psychedelics and stuff, and like they're a naked people who showers in waterfalls and stuff. And I had learned about them, and so I was telling my dad, I was like, we gotta have the baking soda, we gotta have our stuff on us so we can get our LSD. We didn't run into them. We ran into a pretty sketchy guy who was living in the woods, but he was not part of their tribe. I think he had just kind of gotten a little bit lost in life, literally and metaphorically, and was just living out there. So anyway, I bring up Kauai because, to be honest, I didn't know that it was a Stargate until the other day after I recorded that video. Oh my gosh, one of my tarot cards just flew away. Guys, it was the Hermit, so there's something to that, but we'll get into it in a minute. Finish my story really quick. I was researching stuff about Peter because I wanted to add those clips to the video that I recorded when I speak about him. And him and his wife, Jamie, actually, so I was born in Belmont, which is a suburb to Boston, and then I moved to Vermont when I was 3 in '97. And then, I grew up there until I came to Pittsburgh, which is like 10 years ago now, so I can't keep anything straight. But basically, I had no idea that the Fausts actually lived on Kauai for like 10 years. And that is weird to me because he's describing abduction experiences that took place when he was living on Kauai. And I'm saying all of this because I had another experience the first night I was there. I don't believe that sleep paralysis and alien abductions are the same thing. Do I believe they could be related? Yes. In every case, no. But are they two phenomena that have a Venn diagram relationship? Yes. So there's times when I think they overlap, there's times when I think they're entirely different. And basically my experience, we got into Hawaii. Oh, I have to tell another little story just for fun after I finish this part, but when we got to Kauai, we stayed at an airport hotel that evening just to have a place to land, and it was like 2 double beds in a room, and my father was asleep. He falls asleep in like 13 seconds and snoring, and I was lying there with my headphones on listening to my iPod, and next thing I know, I was lying, I'm an insomniac, right? So I was just listening to music lying in my bed, and I ended up hearing like a buzzing that made me want to touch my headphones, right? Like a frequency. And the sensation that I felt was like the most amount of pressure. I couldn't move my body at all. I couldn't open my eyes. I knew I was awake because I could still hear the buzz, and it was kind of like in place of my music. It kind of felt like tinnitus or ringing of the ears that people experience, but I couldn't really hear my music anymore, but I knew I was still awake because my mind was still clear and I was still exactly as I was. I just had this immense amount of pressure, almost like somebody who is twice my size had their forearm going across my chest, pushing down. And so because I wasn't dreaming and because I was relatively awake and I couldn't open my mouth, I couldn't open my eyes, immediately my first thought was like, is my dad like trying to kill me or something? Like restraining me? Like who knows what's going on? Or did I not hear like an invader? Like it felt like a physical person. And then I don't remember anything else. And I woke up, or I came to, we'll say. I regained my consciousness and I was on the floor in the hotel room, like 3 feet away from the bed. Again, lying face down with my arms like a goalpost, which is weird. Obviously, strange stuff. Again, no alcohol was involved in this incident of missing time. My iPod was still playing music, but it wasn't in my ears. It was on my bed, and I put it back in my ears, and my playlist had cycled through, I don't know, like 2 or 3 hours of music, right? Because I knew what I was listening to, and I was like, what the fuck just happened? Did I fall asleep? Did I fall out of my bed as I fell asleep? And then I slept here for 3 hours? It was the strangest thing, because it was a very crisp transition of consciousness, you know? When you fall asleep at night, you don't really remember falling asleep. You just kind of know that you did. This was like, I was awake, I was listening to music, I was restrained, essentially, somehow, energetically, like locked, Petrificus totalis style. And then I was on the floor. Or, I mean, there was, you know, just blank, just nothingness in between all that. So, yeah, I've been reflecting on that a little bit too, because this is kind of the type of thing where it's like, there's always more and more little weirdnesses and little events, like, from my life and my history that I could be like, yeah, maybe that was an alien thing too, who knows? There's been a lot of weird little things, but I wanted to share both of those because, well, the first oblong bruise situation, it did happen here in this place that I am now. I was looking at the stars last night with my dad. We were talking about satellites and Elon Musk's thing with like launching 12,000 sky trains. Him and my dad and his wife were back in Vermont like a few weeks ago, and they saw like 30 to 40 satellites moving in synchronization as part of this SkyTrain thing. I don't know. Anyway, the other story I wanted to tell really quickly about Hawaii was that we were on different flights home, my father and I, from this trip. And I had about 10 hours to kill before my flight, and he left, and I was like, huh. And so I took a shuttle to the nearest Marriott, and maybe this isn't like the most legal thing to do, but like I kind of thought it was like a life hack. That's how I viewed this situation. So without even being a member or a guest at this Marriott, the pool was like open to me, you know, and I had my luggage and I just dropped it in like a holding area in the lobby, but then like changed into my suit, hung out at the pool all afternoon. You know, there's a bar, there's food. Just treated myself to a resting place, and I was like, why don't people do this? I should be allowed, it's like a restaurant, right, with a pool. I should be allowed to sit here and pay to exist and kill some time. But anyway, this guy ended up talking to me, and I went with, there's some stories I would tell where I think people would be like, you could have gotten killed, you should be more careful. Well, I also have a very good sense of intuition, and I don't do things that I don't feel protected doing. But anyway, I went and I met his friends, and we hung out at a bonfire. Like, it was just the best day ever. And it kind of like, when I was in Italy, and I was like, I love traveling alone. I really do. And because I was like believed in enough as a youth to do that and start pretty young, it has been one of the defining things that gives me a sense of empowerment, you know, being able to navigate not only life but the world. It's important to me. I aspire to have children that understand that as well, like knowing that other cultures are important and stuff. But anyway, just kind of like making a lemonade out of lemons type thing. I went to their bonfire after having like kind of this day drinky pool afternoon to myself, and it was this beautiful like sing-along situation. We were like singing, and it was really fun. And you know, they drove me back to the airport, and it was like, bye, I'll see you never. This was fun. I love those experiences with other humans. It's like, you don't have to, it's not a big commitment thing to get to know people and have a nice time with them and then be like, okay, bye. You know, not with everybody, but in situations like that, it was pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, I used to really love this obscure band that is called The Pretty Reckless because it's led by Taylor Momsen, who was Little J in the series Gossip Girl, the TV show. And as her character on Gossip Girl gets more like eyelinery and dark and goth, so did Taylor Momsen in real life, until she quits the show, starts her punk band, and records songs like Make Me Wanna Die, which I talk a lot about music being, affirmations in plain sight that has all of America's youth shouting and affirming pretty dark stuff, you know? Like, if you read lyrics and accept a lot of popular lyrics right now at face value, it's affirming a lot of, like, intense stuff, opposed to singing and affirming words, using your voice, using, the spelling of language to affirm certain things. Anyway, it's ironic because this song is not a bright, sparkly unicorn, but obviously there's a purpose for angsty music as well. And anyway, one of these guys really randomly liked that band as well, so that was funny. Not a lot of people liked them. Make Me Wanna Die, that was the name of the song, and Just Tonight was their other one that I liked a lot. Okay. All right, let's see what the cards have for us today. Wait, I just want to circle back really quickly to what I was saying about, so in my other video from 2 days ago, I was talking about coming from liberal family and friends and having felt through the pandemic like I was kind of like ostracized a little bit because it got to a point where I couldn't be in a space that didn't fully get shunned over to the other side of things. I just felt very, very judged and misunderstood for inhabiting the viewpoints that I held around not wanting to get vaccinated, right? And of course I understand the argument that everybody around me held, which is like, you have to protect the people around you, you owe it to your fellow citizens, you're putting everybody in danger. I understand that. I understand that, and I know that that's the reason why getting all of the people to take that shot was so effective, because it was public health emergency. That is how one would get a bunch of people to take a vaccine like that. But I just I was willing to stay away. Oh, it's like 11, so it's gonna ring for a long time. Stay, baby. Stay. Oh, shit. Nice. This is all really nice energy. So the reason why I'm bringing that up again is because it's interesting to love people and know that I'm loved by people, but really have some pretty strong difference in opinion about some of the major things happening in the world today. And I feel really lucky that I can be actually in that position, because conversations that I was having with my dad last night around artificial intelligence, where I was talking about Temu and the app and the glitches, and he was saying, like, I mean, why do you even care about this at all? Why is Temu reality? Why is this indicative of anything? Why can't we listen to the Huberman podcast and think about all the good applications? You know, because then it's like I'm being a little conspiracy theorist, and I'm burrowing into the holes of like how it's glitching and how maybe people don't understand this and they believe it. And by the way, my friend told me that there's been a few cases of people using that Temu app that I was humored by all the glitches and the pictures and the weirdness of it. Their card information's been like violated, or there's been like fraud accounts linked to using that app. So it was right fishy from the get-go. But anyway, I was saying to my dad, like, I mean, yeah, sure, it's not the reality of what we can do with AI, but it exists. And it's like goes back to what I was talking about with the charcuterie board the other day, and thinking about different belief systems and stuff from that frame of mind, because it's like a lot of people, and I somewhat accused him of this, would maybe prefer to not like have to look at certain things, but then I feel like you're just kind of selectively viewing the way that reality is unfolding, and that's what I strive to avoid, because the more you know. But I think, as with anything, I'm more partial to kind of exploring the things that I'm interested in, and he's more interested in exploring the things that are like optimistic. But I was just saying, I feel lucky that I can still get into really honest, intellectually stimulating debates with people who I love and who love me, and they let me be who I am, right? The vaccine was a breaking point, because it was the first time in my life where my differentness, you know, I kind of like just had to buckle and do something that I didn't want to do, and it felt uncomfortable, and I felt pressured, and it's not the end of the world. I don't think I'm going to drop dead because I got it. That was never the reason why I didn't want to get it. I said this yesterday or 2 days ago. Come on, baby, just hang out. Lie down. I don't really want to go into all this, because it's exactly, see, this is why it's crazy. It's exactly the type of thing that I could talk about and just lose subscribers, because it's such a divisive thing. Like, isn't that interesting? I could talk about anything, but if I talk about this, then people will either be like, yeah, I'm fully on your team. Damn it, they're all flying away. Or, okay, never mind, you're one of like the crazy people, right? It's interesting how divisive it is. So I hope that you don't unsubscribe to my YouTube channel, because I'm talking about that. But you know what? Honestly, if you need to, then go right ahead, because I don't need the convoluted energy. And I just want you to be happy. So I drew 4 cards. They're just setting us up to do a quick energy spread here and check in. And I had really, really peculiar dreams last night. And you know what? I woke up this morning. It's actually 10 degrees cooler. Ooh, a little gold reflection. It's 10 degrees cooler here than it is in the city, which is so refreshing, because I've been talking about looking forward to fall and crispness, and like, I mean, you can see how nice, like, just the water, the sky, the air. I was just sitting on my porch having some cereal, drinking some coffee. And I've talked about these before, but I have something within my psychic vision called spiral blooms. I've had them since I was a kid. One of those things that I never knew was unusual. I thought other people had this experience. And it's basically this quatrefoil shape where 4 spirals will emerge. It always starts with 4 or 3, but typically 4. And then they'll replicate and move and swirl and contort the longer I leave my eyes in one place. And it's sort of like I can use them to move energy. It's almost like how I can see a physical presence of energy sometimes. And they're more so the energy between things. Like, they're my twisties, really, is what I'm seeing sometimes. So it's less about people, it's more about the energy between things. For instance, like, I could project them onto a blank canvas to prepare it for the painting that I'm gonna do. Or I could use it to clear things. But anyway, I was sitting on the porch this morning, and I was seeing those like really strongly. They were very defined. So I was just kind of meditating with that. And some days, I don't know, clairvoyance or not, maybe people will know what I'm talking about here. Some days you go outside, a day like this, and it's like technicolor, and it's like my eyes and like the animal creature that I am is almost not designed to accept the vibrance and the brightness and the clarity of this air and this sunlight and this blueness and this breeze. Like, you almost feel like kind of like you're squinting, but like energetically. Do you know what I mean by that? That's kind of how today feels for me. Like, yes, it is optically bright out here, That's why I got my granddad's hat on. And it's more so about the fact that on a day like today, certain psychic experiences that I have that aren't constant, they're a little bit more, everything's always in flux, but for me, the clairvoyance comes in what I've talked about in my brain as like montages or visions or having different like dashboards to work out different visual metaphors. But also, I do see different kinds of colors and glows and lines and streaking around people's heads and shoulders and midsections and whatnot, and lines moving through space and orbs. So on a day like today, when I'm in that, like, ooh, the energy is really bright, things just feel really, like our whole day is just like taking place at the top of a mountain. Like our whole day is just taking place in a I'm getting distracted because my dog might start barking. Those experiences on a day like today are heightened as well. So like lines. Right here. No. Those experiences are not, my experience of seeing that way is not totally constant. It's not like every time I go out there's like spirals and lines around people. It's like some days and some people I will see things. Other times, you know, my vision looking around a grocery store will be just like anybody else's, you know. But then some days it's popping. Today it's popping. So to get into the cards that I pulled, we have the Four of Swords, the Chariot, the Fool, and the Ace of Pentacles. So what's really cool about this is that the Fool, the Chariot, and the Ace of Pentacles are all about new starts, fresh beginnings, and like moving in a tangible, quick, fearless way into that. What else we have is the Four of Swords. So I will get another card for clarifying and explaining the Four of Swords. Okay, so we are, because of all the other, there's a glare, so I haven't been able to really see, but like, because of the other energies being two major arcana, like a little bit more prominent, what I see the Four of Swords and the Five of Swords as being, especially because it's 4 to 5, so it's a progression, and it makes 9 being like almost there, almost done, almost closing out. It is this closing out or this progression of us continuing to move through this feeling of stagnation and stuckness with the 4. But with the 5 as well, I've talked about this as being like this dejected kid almost who took the tools away from the game. He took the soccer ball away and they can't play anymore, and he doesn't really get why it stopped being fun, but it's because he got selfish, and also feeling, you know, letting that be kind of this deep-seated expression of like feeling like there's not enough for everybody or insecurity. So there's this warped perception around our sense of like playing fairly with others, but that could also, I know this is the Five of Swords and not the Five of Wands, but in the Five of Wands card, there are guys that have wands fighting with one another, and sometimes it can be interpreted as, the inner conflict within someone's own mind instead of 5 actual different individuals or external conflicts. So I see this kind of the same way as like our internal sense of distortion around kind of like what we're actually seeing through our intuition in these times of like meditation and self-reflection to clear away the things that we don't want and welcome in new energy. We are kind of finally letting go of like our own distortions around that. That's what I think. Card to clarify for that. It's the Seven of Cups, which represents illusion and choice. Okay, so I would say that maybe we're overwhelmed by the process that I just described, this kind of clearing out and sorting through. If we're taking time to ourselves to try to see the ways that we haven't, you know, been fully on board with our own growth, or maybe we've been in like minor energies of self-sabotage or delaying. Because at the end of my message, I think 2 readings ago, I got this impromptu thing when I was ringing the chime, like loud and clear as a bell, which is funny because it was ringing the chime. Don't procrastinate, you know, like a collective message came through, and I said that. I said, I don't know who needs to hear this, but we need to stop procrastinating. So there's something here about procrastinating, the energy closing out and lifting, but with the clarifier being the Seven of Swords. What do we need to embrace? What energy do we need to embrace around this in order to help ourselves through the confusion that might be surfacing right now? That was too many. I'm not going to go like that. You know what? This is good because this was the energy to embrace, I believe, in my reading from the other day around like quick, forward, decisive movement. The reason why there's confusion here is because it's a questioning and a second guessing of the intuitive knowing, whereas what I talked about again in that video from the other day was like a quick doo-doo, like a touchdown. Like, can I check myself? Moments of consciousness, and kind of almost as I described the kyanite stone being an answer stone and a tool that you can use to help sharpen your discernment and your intuition. The way that you would do if you had a piece of kyanite and you would be like, is this aligned for me? You know, whatever it is. If you're staring at 4 doors and you walk past each one, is it aligned for me? No. The last one, yes. There should be this quick ability to kind of touch back down and reflect internally with yourself, but with your higher self, or if you are opening yourself up to different kinds of spiritual protection through prayer, archangels, guides, ancestors, you know, making sure that you clarify with the power of your free will and your intent that you're not welcoming any beings that would ever leech any energy off of you, only beings of the light to help you, you know, heal and stay protected. But I'm seeing that we can trust that process. And I know what it's like from my journey with strengthening my intuition. I know exactly what it's like if somebody were to be like, I mean, I ask and then it's just nothing. It's just my mind. Like, what do you mean there's going to be a little yes or a little no or something? There's nothing. No, there's something. There always is. There always is. But what's interesting is that when you start to realize how you're perceiving your own intuition, you'll realize that you were just waiting for. It's like the Patronus thing again with Harry Potter and him expecting to see his father. It was just him in a different timeline. And I'm talking about that again because it's almost like it is your ego and your conscious mind that struggles with that lack of quote unquote answer, because you're waiting for the response. You're waiting for the intuition to speak in the same tone as the ego mind, as the thoughts that you're used to witnessing in the quality of your mind, you know? And it doesn't speak in the same tone. It doesn't have the same voice. It doesn't have the same candor or energy. So that's where the practice of it all comes in. Sometimes maybe you're asking for answers and you are not hearing anything. What you are doing is you're going through the practice. You are practicing having that moment of checking and self-reflection, and the touchdown. You're quickly being able to execute, move forward, make decisions, and trust yourself, kind of moving out of this more reflective stagnation time with a dejected energy where things weren't done in the best way for all parties involved. It's already been 15 minutes. I suppose it has. Well, it's been 38 minutes, but since the 11 o'clock bell went off, you know. So the confusion around this is lifting, because this is the most important message of the reading for the day, is what I'm being told. What I'm being told is that people need to understand that even the process of checking to see if you can hear your intuition, that's the whole process right now. And I'm sure there are also people who are like a little, you know, much more developed and have those intuitive knowings and feel really clear when they receive those. But again, Wheel of Fortune's here at the bottom of the deck. Everyone's on different timelines, so you could be really familiar with what I'm talking about, or you could kind of be in the camp of being like, yeah, I mean, if I do ask for a confirmation, I don't hear anything at all. You'll start to, you know, it has to do with the dropping of expectations, and then you would want to continue to hold space to try to hear something, and then start to understand that it may not be thoughts in your mind like that. It could be this strong like sensation in your solar plexus, which is bringing your attention to your you know, the sense of self. Like these subtle changes, the energy, language manifest as thoughts in your mind differently, because it's not in your mind, right? It's your soul. It's part of, it's the synergy that you can experience through your body, understanding the way that energy feels in your body. So want to keep getting, I said energy to embrace. We got the Knight of Swords moving through with clarity. I'm going to get one more. What can we embrace? More energy to embrace right now. Wow, that's interesting because you saw the Wheel of Fortune was on the bottom. Here it is again. So trust in divine timing. Know that things are moving at the pace that they need to right now. And I'm also hearing really, really nice and clear. Be proud of yourself. So simple. Just be really proud of yourself and grateful for how far you've come. I don't know what you're going through, what you're working on, or what you've released, but great job. Seriously. There's a lot of people going through a lot of really hard stuff in the world right now. And if you're one of them, I'm sending you great prayers and strength. And if you're open to receiving that and just letting it help you, it's real. We can do this type of transmission. If you believe in it and you can receive this like strength and goodness that I'm sending you, then it's yours. And that's beautiful, isn't it? We can send and exchange energy remotely like this. So anyway, just be proud of yourself, Kay. You know, look what else. With the Wheel of Fortune, it's saying like all this burden, like all these things that we've had to carry for so long, and we are releasing it. I'm not concerned about this showing up because it's with the Ten of Pentacles and it's with Wheel of Fortune. It's everything happening in divine timing, and it's the releasing of a lot of burdens for stability and feeling better about everything. Everything that's coming in, everything that's going out, everything that's changing. And it's a period of, I would not call it stagnation. It's more of the plateau that comes after. It was 4141 when I looked up at the clock. So that would be like 55, and again 10, completion of cycles, but 5 being the number of big change. It's more of this entry into a plateau of stability. So it's a new plateau, it's a new height, right? We've struggled and overcome certain things so that we can reach our hand up and like pull the remaining, you know, lower part of our body up and be on a new latitude that we haven't actually existed on before. And I mean this very, very literally, just because of the expansion of energy. Like never before in our lives have we felt this way energetically. Very, very, very cool. Okay, what I got off the top is the Six of Swords. So leaving the old behind for new and better things. Yeah, pretty succinct. What are we not seeing? What's hidden? What's hidden energy from us? This is funny. Temperance. Yeah, well, she's never quite hidden. Okay, the message that I'm getting with this card in the hidden energy position is that there might still be some things, if you're not resonating with what I've said so far about feeling like you can be proud of yourself and you're kind of closing out a period of transition, then I think it's because you're not acknowledging that there's still a choice you need to make and you're avoiding it. That's the message with that. So it would be kind of like taking inventory of what in your life you may be procrastinating on or stagnating on changing because you have failed thus far to recognize that it might not serve your goals in the way that you think it might. Or maybe you do know that, and so you don't want to, you know, I won't pretend to extrapolate. What's the advice if that's the situation? I mean, really, it's pretty clear. You just have to have the strength. You know, you cannot act in a cowardly energy. Sometimes things are really hard to do, hard to say, hard to own up to, hard to admit, hard to forgive. But the advice would be like, you just got to be strong enough to do that, you know? You have to go out of your comfort zone. You have to be able to look someone in the eye and do, you know, I don't know what it is. Some things are not easy to do. It doesn't mean that they're not supposed to be done. But we will just get an advice card for it nonetheless to see what comes out. 4404 when I look up. It's the World. Okay, so it just has to do with that pure, open honesty and understanding of the fact that not all things last forever, and there are certain things that are okay. The other message is like, there are certain things that feel like your whole world, but they're in fact exactly the thing that's keeping you from the rest of the world, if that makes sense. And I always see and hear with this card, the world's your oyster. The world's your oyster. And I'm also, this is interesting, I'm seeing like somebody who has a very sick parent, or somebody who's dealing with end-of-life care, or just a sick family member, and a person needing to devote all of their time and energy and care to protecting and supporting that individual because the sick one has nobody else. So another application or interpretation of this energy could be somebody that needed to be in that position, and I'm not saying that's like a bad thing, and it's a beautiful thing to do, to support somebody, you know, and unfortunately that's how it goes sometimes, that you have to drop everything and become somebody's main source of support. And so if that was the case, and then, for example, that person passed away, your whole world opens up, and you know, that person maybe was your world and now they're gone, or your life is changing. So that's the type of big energy and big cycles that we're working with and closing out right now. Now I want to see an upcoming energy and energy to look forward to. One card for each. Upcoming and energy to look forward to. Upcoming. Nice. Look at that. Pre-Empress energy, the Nine of Pentacles, stability. Yeah, first thing I said when I got here and I got out of the car yesterday was like, I can't wait to look at the stars, because for me, it's interesting. I have a lot of abundant material blessings to be grateful for, and I am very privileged in my life, and I know that, and I take stock of that abundance all the time, and I'm grateful for it. But one of the biggest ways for me to amplify my vibration is spending time under stars or with, you know, trees and nature, as I've talked about many times before now, but to appreciate them. The sense of gratitude that I get from looking at, like, you know, my earrings collection and being like, I'm so lucky and I love these things, and I'm telling the universe I want, you know, the abundance to be able to bring in more if I so choose. It doesn't nearly give me as much of a vibratory adjustment as sitting at the end of the stalk and looking out at the lake and being like, I'm just filled with the language and the energy and the frequency of abundance, because it's a different kind of abundance. It's energetic abundance. It's the thing that trumps the physical material, you know, the man-made world. It gives me like the way that sunlight glistens off of snow, the way that light glistens off of water. Those things, they're like riches, but they are like riches of the kingdom of heaven, because again, it gets into light and things like defying this physical experience and being brighter than we can perceive, that high vibrational purity. So anyway, with that Nine of Pentacles being the upcoming energy, I absolutely love that, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things about nature, is that it's free. It doesn't cost a thing, but for me, it makes me feel like wealthy, you know what I mean? To spend time in nature, to be able to have that leisurely ability to look at it, it can make you feel abundant, because nature is a demonstration of abundance, you know? So anyway, also gratitude, green energy, heart chakra, Nine of Pentacles with stability and pre-Empress energy, like green and purple. I'm also seeing an aurora borealis, like a green and purple northern lights spread, which is really lovely. So third eye and heart chakra activations right now too. Feeling grateful. And then what was I gonna say? Something to look forward to. Upcoming energy was the Nine of Pentacles, and something to look forward to is the Four of Cups. Well, give me a clarifier. I'll do top and bottom. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. The Knight of Wands and the Emperor. So that's masculine, like forward action, like passionate forward motion on something, an idea, like after a period of, this is in the energy to look forward to position. So it is after a period of boredom and stagnation. There is something more, you know, exciting and action-based and fiery coming into our lives to look forward to. And I love that. All right, so thanks for tuning in and sharing in this energy of the lakeside peace on this fine Sunday afternoon. And I will probably record again later.